Well, good morning. Welcome to today's episode of The Word. I'm glad that you are with us today. Well, we are going to continue our wonderfully shocking news about Jesus' resurrection, and we're going to continue the story, started obviously last week on Easter Sunday, but today we'll continue the story of, as people have named him, Doubting Thomas. Well, Thomas isn't the only one who doubts, but that's another part of the story we'll get to in a few minutes. But we'll start here in this wonderful, shocking news of how Jesus shows up and shows Thomas who he really is. We'll talk more about this in just a moment. We'll be right back. Okay, so we are still in our lesson today on Easter Sunday, the very first day of the week, number one, the very first day of people's new lives, number two, because Jesus is now alive. Yay! So, Jesus is alive, but the apostles haven't seen him yet. Well, later that evening, that first Easter evening, Jesus is present with them in the room. Now, in the very beginning, the doors were locked. They were afraid, the apostles were, that they were going to get caught, that they were going to be arrested, and they were going to be killed, probably just like Jesus was. Anyway, they were all huddling in fear, except for, you guessed it, Thomas. Thomas was not there. All of a sudden, Jesus walks right through the locked door, right into their room, right into their presence. I could picture the scene, standing right in the middle of them. Everyone is in like shock and awe, like unable to speak. And then Jesus says these wonderful words, "Peace be with you." In other words, Jesus is calming the hearts, bringing the minds out of shock mode, and bringing the whole life back centered into a point where they can listen and hear the words of Jesus. Peace be with you, Jesus says. And he says when he showed this in John chapter 20, verse 20, when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his side. Then disciples were glad when they saw the Lord. Again, Jesus says, peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, even so I am sending you. Now, the event is to the point where they're calm enough. Here's the instructions. You are going to go out. You are going to go out into the world just as the Father sent me into the world, I'm sending you into the world as well, which is great news for us. Jesus is sending us also. Now, if we go forward a few weeks, we'll receive the Holy Spirit in order to empower us and encourage us and equip us in order to go out. But Jesus is giving us the command, the directive, the impetus, the movement that God is giving us to go forth and share the word. So, I'm sending you out there. And Jesus is not going to leave them alone. He gave this hint before he went to the Garden of Gethsemane. He says, I'm going to be sending you another helper. Well, here is another helper. Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven. If you withhold forgiveness, it is withheld. So now the apostles are in charge of what Jesus did, giving away forgiveness. Now, today's this devotion is not going to be long enough in order for us to talk about how that works. We'll get into that probably in another video. There's so many videos I need to do. It's crazy. But regardless of that. But that's the command. That's the directive. That's the impetus he's given to his apostles. At that moment in time, -1. Now, somebody once said to me, actually, technically, -2. Who's the second one? Judas. recall, Judas hung himself. Yes, somebody caught somebody else on that one, and they shared it with me. Anyway, sidebar aside, Thomas was not there. So the following day, they found him. These friends, Jesus' friends, found Thomas. They found him and they said, "We have seen the Lord," in verse 25. But he said to them, "Unless I see in his hands the marks of the nails, and place my finger in the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe." Interesting translation at that moment. Never say never. That's a great rule of thumb for us. Never say never. I will not believe. He was resolute in his non-believing. Now, I could go into the rationale as to why Thomas was doing that. Not 100% sure. I don't know what was going on in his mind. Obviously, he was just like, I'm in denial. Could be. But that's another story for another video. 8 days later, his disciples were inside again, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." That was more for Thomas's effect, I believe. They already knew Jesus could do this. The rest of them, that is. "Put your finger here in my hands, and put your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe." I love this translation. It's not doubt. Disbelieve. Do not unbelieve. Do not be in an unbelieving state. Could be potentially that way too. But believe. Let your reservations, let your fears go away. And those great words to us too. Let those reservations, let those worries, let those hurts, let them all go. Let all those barriers that we place in front of believing go away. Just stop disbelieving and believe. That's such a great phrase. And what did Thomas do? My Lord and my God. Now here comes the good part. For you and I, anyway. Jesus told Thomas, he says, Have you believed in me because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. He's talking to you. He's talking to me. He's talking to everyone. He's giving us the opportunity. He's recognizing us. We haven't seen Jesus. We're not going to see Jesus this side of eternity. But we still believe in him. Yes, we do. We still believe in Jesus, and this is the beautiful thing. We still believe in Jesus. We believe not by sight, but by faith. And that's the key element here today for you and I. Now, there's other things in here which I've mentioned, just a couple. And if you have any questions about some of those other slides, please give me a comment, let me know. Comment right below in the comment section. All right. We'll see you in worship in just a few moments. And if you hurry, you can make it for Sunday school. We'll talk to you then. Sunday school starts at 9:15. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.